clean this valve cover and the gasket sealing area accordingly. Once the bolts are out of the timing cover, at the very top, slip it off there. And as I say, this timing belt's only got about 30,000 miles on it. The interval in normal temperatures, driving in normal temperatures, is about 100,000 miles. So now that that's up and out of the way, I'm going to get on the crankshaft with a 17mm socket and rotate the engine until this letters that says spells up is pointing straight up. And the crankshaft rolls, looking at it, counterclockwise, so it's like the direction the tires rotate on the car when you're going down the road. Now the timing marks are lined up. One is just a single line ahead of some smaller lines cut across the dampener. And I've highlighted it with yellow. It goes clear across to the other side. Then there's some 3 other smaller lines ahead of it. But the one line out by itself should line up with that pointer. Here. You can take the alternator belt off if you want to make it clearer, but I'm not going to. And then the cam sprocket has 2 indentations that's level with the head surface. It's in time. And I just really wanted to verify it. Let's lay a straight edge against the head and lay it flat against the head surface, and it should line up with that divot in the cam. There's one on each side. But anyway, it's not a tooth off, so that's all that matters. And I went ahead and put a mark on the belt and the very top tooth, as long as the crank's sitting on top dead center. And I'm going to go ahead and put a heavy screwdriver underneath this spoke on the cam sprocket against the surface of the head, and not scratch it up. Hold up on this sprocket. I want to break this 12mm bolt loose, just crack it loose. That's all I need to do right now. This screwdriver acted as a cam sprocket holder, and then just broke the nut loose. Now, there's normally a plug covering the tensioner adjusting bolt, lock bolt. The plug's missing off this one, but it's sticking out there. It's 14mm. And I'll take and get a ratchet on that and break that loose. I don't think it's going to be a biggie. Fish the ratchet in the front, put on it, and break it loose just a little bit. Switch the ratchet back to Tighten. And down in the timing cover, there's a little spring with an arm on it. And that ledge hooks to that spring. I'm going to push down on it away from the spring pulling up on it, and then tighten the bolt that holds the tensioner pulley back into place so that there will be slack in the belt. Whatever you do after this point, do not rotate the engine, etc., etc. As you can see, if I push down on that arm, put slack in the belt. So I'm going to hold that arm down and tighten this bolt on the tensioner back down to hold it loose like that. It's not super tight, it's just snug down so that the belt is loose on it. And I can go ahead and remove this bolt to the pull in, slip the pulley out of there. Now, once I get this belt loose, I'm going to take a bungee cord and just lightly hook it onto the belt. Then hook it to a fastener on the hood, a hole somewhere on the hood, just to keep tension on the belt. Just for shits and giggles. Still need to take this back cover off. And if you're worried about dropping that bolt down into the workings, stuff a rag under it before you remove it so it can't fall down in there, get caught up in it. Is usually the best policy. And the pocket came out. Has a built-in keyway, or key anyway. And I've got my belt with a little tension on it. And I should be able to pop this back cover right up out of there. It's going to be a two-hander there. Fish it around this cam bearing. When the cover comes up, there is a rubber grommet right here. And I think the kit came with a new one of them. Would probably head to go ahead and spot glue it to this cover before reinstalling it. And slip down in there and make sure nothing big's fell in the workings down there. Come around this side and take the 3 12mm out of the distributor mount. Just slide the distributor straight out and remove. Now this distributor will only fit back into the camshaft one way. These blades are offset. But if you're inclined to, thought they should be fooling with the workings on the distributor. Although, except for changing this O-ring, you can put a mark where the blades belong. If you're inclined to. And while you're poking around over here around the distributor, make sure electrical connectors are unhooked. And go ahead and remove this heater hose clamp. Slip the heater hose off. gasket is dripping or wicking out. Yeah, maybe some right there too. Feel free to remove any of the spark plugs or all of them and change them accordingly. Took a couple of them out already. I've taken a 10mm socket and loosened all 16 of these lock nuts up on the rocker arms. And I'm going to take a screwdriver, and the ones that are loaded down, back them up till the load's taken off of them. These all have to be set in. This one's time for the manual adjustment on them anyway. They seem boogered up about 5 or 6 turns into it, so I'm stopping there with, even if they're loaded a little bit or not. I ain't gonna risk tearing those fine threads up over it. Now I'm going to start breaking these cam bearing bolts loose from the center out to the outer edge. 2 at a time, half turn each, till get all those loosened up. There's 10mm here, and then 10, 12mm, and 2 more 10mm on the end. Once you get all the bolts loose, just pull them up and make sure they're not attached to anything, all of them, even the 10mm. You want to just leave them in there to hold all that mess together on these blocks for the cam bearings. And stick a screwdriver underneath the corner and help it out if it needs it. A little silicone on the corners, and plus a bonding agent underneath the caps. It'll have to be replaced and cleaned off. Have to be encouraged to come up a little bit, but not anything too rapid. Be sure not to push on the valve and bend it. And I'll just keep wiggling around until it releases the glue on the ends, any dowel pins. And make sure you got a clean place for the stuff to land on. And use a piece of white cardboard. Be sure if you're prying on it, you pry on both ends evenly. You want to see it opening up on both sides the same amount, so you're not jackknifing it. And just look at the cam lobes and the bearings over. A little bit skinned up there in the middle, but can live with it. Lobes look good. See any pits on them. And there was probably some dowel pin sleeves that came up with that other piece. Now there's the oil control valve. Now typically you can pull that up out of there when you get the head off and put an O-ring around it. Spray it out. Just be sure not to lose it and forget it to put it back in it. You'll have a problem with it flooding the head with oil. Yeah, it had the whole back row had, well, I guess all of them's got dowel pin sleeves on them. Except for out on the end. Yeah, that's fine. Go ahead and lift the cam up out of it. Make sure not to damage your spark plug tubes. Glued in there. And keep the wheel off the timing belt. You might go ahead and drain off the wheel and that cam lube reservoir in the center, but the head bolts have to be removed the exact opposite way they're installed, and a third of a turn at a time till they're fully loosened up. And this is the order: timing belt on the right, distributor on the left, be one on the right, two on the far diagonal left, and so on. A third of a turn till they're all loose. And the head bolts are 14 millimeters. Alright, all 10 bolts are loose. It's just a little filler, so you can't go all medieval on it and not expect something bad to happen, so take it easy on him. And once I pick them out of there, I'll be able to see how bad the head gasket, what the problem was on this side, causing that to grease up on this side. And this spark plug here, I put a lot of pressure on it and it just didn't feel right, so I'm going to wait and get it off there and spray the back side of it down with penetrating oil and possibly kind of heat it up a little bit. See how that does for it. All the bolts are out, and I got a nice clean place for it to land. I'll pop it off there. Once it's wiggling around a little bit, lift it straight off of there. And land it on something clean. Looks like the head gasket went with the head. It's pretty clean. I'd say this corner was probably where it was wicking out. Although it was going down both sides. Yeah, it's about time to cover all that up with a rag and scrape that intake gasket off, and make sure you got a replacement that matches it up before you tear it up. Like I say, the spark plug tubes won't take much weight, so I'll lay the head against them. There's 2 dowel pins in the bed, at least pin tubes anyway, and those will have to be kept track of. And looks like it's kind of gristly on this corner. I was observing the gristle on this corner build up around the water jacket in several places. That's really thick. But I'll probably drop it off at the machine shop and have them clean this face up. So I was going to check it for flatness, but there's just too many irregularities in these holes from like flash sticking up to set a straight edge on it. It wasn't ever heated or anything, but it'd be better just to have another deck made on it. Just put a mirror finish across that and take all that crap off with it, and just flush the head out. And maybe have them poke at that spark plug a little bit. Mouse over the video and hit the circle I to continue to part 2 of the video.